everybody. Good to see you. Hello, hello. Welcome to this beautiful um what day is it today? Perfect. There's sound. This is great. I want to see if there's sound when I'm talking though. There's one person watching right now. It's me. I'm watching myself. This is very exciting. Hold on a sec. Oh, there's the character song. Fabulous. Okay, we're good. We're good. Alrighty. So, good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We are back from where are we back from? Hold on, let me just turn this up just a little bit here so you guys can make sure you can hear me. We are back from Region 1 and Region 4, I imagine. Let's see, can I mute myself here? I just want to make sure. There we go. I can see myself there. Perfect. Okay, so we are back from the Region 1 conference. I think Region 4 also had their conference. I was just on the app and I saw the Region 1, Region 4 stuff, so that was great. It was a really fun conference. I felt like I get overstimulated at events where, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of energy, so I'm easily overwhelmed. And what I'm loving is over the last, say, I don't know, 3 to 4 years, I've really been learning. Well, actually, it was before that when I was actually figuring out what the process was. But when I started networking, I started to put together a process that would allow me to go networking events, like, weekly ones, monthly ones, not ones as big like this, and sort of manage my social anxiety, manage my PTSD, manage my fibromyalgia. There's a lot of things to manage when you're chronically ill, and neurodivergent. And what's really exciting is that, when you're going through the process of building these tools, it can feel exhausting. But then, like, when you get to an event like NCURA, Region 1, or PRA, FRA, or whatever, and you get to see all those pieces and tools kind of come together, and you're able to ask for what you need, and people are able to, they are very, because of the amount of effort that people are now putting into making sure that other people feel like they belong, right? I feel like it's a very different experience for me than it was, say, 10 to 15 years ago, where I had all these things going on in my body. I had no idea what was happening. All I knew is that, like, I was, that kind of thing. So I had so much fun because I felt like it was, and I told Allie, I said, I feel like my capacity to love as like a human being has been expanded by this experience. It was really quite lovely because I went in with the expectation of sort of like being vulnerable and kind of opening up. And because, of course, if you're doing a keynote, that's part of the process. But more importantly, like, I mean, a lot of you who were there I've known for many years, and then many of you are new friends that I've now met, and now you're joining, my community now because we know each other, right? And it was just such a beautiful experience. I have to say, if you have not been to one of these events before, I strongly recommend it. There is something very exciting about being in a space of a lot of people who are have similar perspectives, similar worldviews, in terms of research administration and the changes that need to come, because we're in a very difficult time. So it's really exciting because I think when we're sitting in our offices, it's so hard to feel like we're not alone. Right? Like you're not the only one having to deal with the PIs and the bureaucracy and all of the things that come with being a research administrator. And I think when you're at these events, it becomes so much easier to realize, okay, we're in this together. And so I typically use these events as opportunities to kind of build little pockets of conversations to where it's like, okay, you and I are going to get together later and we're going to talk about job descriptions. And you and I are going to get together later and talk about DEI and how we can make sure that we are showing care to the people that are in our organization and that are in our area of responsibility and beyond, actually. And then what I typically do is plant those seeds then, so we all get to know each other and like, we're like, okay, I know you. But then there's not a lot of time at these events to be able to sort of get really deep into it. So for everybody who is just now coming back from your conference, I had to take a few days to recover. More on that. I want to encourage you to sort of put on your day-to-day habits. So like, you only really need to do it once a day, maybe once a week, even if you want to. Like, so once a week, pick out 3 people that you met and reach out to them. Hey, how are you doing? Good to connect with you, so on. Let's get on a call and just nerd out about research administration, continue the conversation that we had. And, I think it's for a lot of us, we come back from these events and we just, we have the pile of things next to us that we're like, okay, I'm gonna deal with this, and then it moves over there to the dining room, and then it moves over there, and then it ends up in a drawer, and like we never really capitalize on the energy of these events. Several years ago, I realized that if I capitalized on the energy from these events, that it actually kind of lubed up the rest of my year. And so now it just made everything else feel easier. So, and it's a lot. So that's why I recommend doing just a few people at a time. And if you think about it, so let's say I reach out to two people, and each of those two people are reaching out to two people. Eventually, we're going to be reaching out to each other. And so the network grows over the course of the year rather than simply having like this big intense moment where we're all hanging out and then we all just go back to our individual sort of spaces. That was actually one of the biggest awesome session we had, Sarah and I, on using LinkedIn to grow your network. And what was interesting is that some of the questions that came up were using LinkedIn to grow your network as a research administrator, just to have people in your network. But then it was also, how do you do it without making it seem like you're looking for a job? Because not everybody who wants to be on LinkedIn and is using LinkedIn is looking for a job, right? So that's something to consider as well. How do you use it to build community? What was the other one? And then when you are ready to go look for a job, how do you leverage LinkedIn to get the job that you want, right? So we talked about all of those things. And so more to come on that, because those of you who are in the class, you're going to get an email from me later on today with all of the resources that I promised. But for those of you who are not in the class, if that's something that you're interested in, just drop me an email, comment here, just let me know that you're interested in learning more about LinkedIn, and we'll throw some videos together on YouTube. So let's talk a little bit about what happened, at the conference, and which many of you probably noticed as well, which is that there were some common themes in terms of the challenges that we're facing, which on one hand, I was reassured that, okay, this is the track that I've been on. So I'm on the right track. God, it would be awful if I was like, oh, these are all the problems. And then I walk in and everyone's like, no, they're not. These are the problems, right? Gasp. Yeah, that's unfortunate. No, but what the problems that actually emerged were ones that we have been talking about. So one, there's too much work. Two, there's not enough people to do the jobs. But then three, and this was actually, I think, the most exciting part, was that there are a lot of people across the country who are doing some really exciting work to solve some of these problems, right? And one of the things that I mentioned in my keynote at the very end, I believe at some point, was that these are big problems, right? And it's going to take a lot of people collectively working together in our little pockets initially, but then we're going to kind of connect together and then create like one big Voltron type thing. But at the moment, but it's difficult to do that when you don't know who's doing what and where, right? So one of the things that I really wanted to learn at this conference was, what is everybody doing? Because, the stuff I say is really just the beginning of the conversation to say, hey, everybody, let's gather here and talk about it. But then in the end, like, someone else is going to solve the problem about training PIs, new PIs who don't understand research administration. How do we bring them onto having a research portfolio in such a way that they understand what is required of them on a business and administrative and compliance perspective? But when bringing them in, like, as part of this new cohort, I'm calling it a new cohort, but it's a new cohort of people who sort of recognize that this is part of the cost of doing business of research, right? Because, if you think about it, a lot of the push and pull comes from a mismatched expectations, right? PIs think that RAs need to do blah, blah, blah. RAs know what we need to do. There's difference in expectations of timing, of work-life balance, of roles, whatever it is, right? So if you bring in a group of people who come in at the very beginning, knowing that these are the expectations and knowing that this is sort of how you do it to get it done the best way possible, then it just makes everybody else's life easier. So there are actually a couple of people who brought this up in the Res Admin mailing list, and they're working on something. And the Dana-Farber is working on a Pathfinder program for that. They actually ran their pilot earlier on this year. I believe Duke's does something like this as well. So there are organizations all over the country who are piloting these little things, right? That's one area of it. But then others are time management. Others are, how do you talk to the leadership at the VP level and the people who are making the decisions? There's another set of people working on that. So what's really great about these events is that you get to see the pockets of spaces that everybody's working in, and you can then see, oh, okay, the foundations are being laid for this better future in research administration that we're talking about. And why that's so important is because I think when we're sitting again in our own spaces, it's really hard to feel like what we're doing is making a difference, right? So like I was in an organization, briefly where I was working full time, and it felt like no matter what I did, it wasn't making a difference. I was fighting the fight all the time, and it was downhill. It's like Sisyphus with his freaking giant stone, and it just doesn't feel like you're making a difference. The key, the most important thing I think to take away from that is that you are making a difference. You may not be making a difference in the way that you envisioned it or what you thought or sort of like, oh, this is how I imagine it going, but you are making a difference, and every little bit, kind of like Syra likes to say, shavings make a pile. So I think that's what I really took away from the conference. Like, it was interesting. There was some tactical stuff that many people trained on, and it was actually really, really helpful. But I think that what was very interesting is that there was a deep need for us to figure out less about what to do, because most of the people who are attending these conferences are either brand new in the profession or are people who've been doing this for many, many years, right? And in both cases, the thing that they're more interested in before, I say they as if I'm not part of the community, we are more interested in, I can definitely speak for myself, is not so much the activity of doing research administration, like I'm going to do it just in time. I'm going to do a progress report or whatever, right? Instead, what we're really looking for is approaches, right? More, how do we work in such a way that we can have work-life balance? How do we do it in such a way? How can we engage with our customers to where they understand the need for a 7 business day deadline or whatever, 10 business day, whatever it ends up being, right? And I think those are the challenges that we're facing more right now, because that we all recognize, and this is actually really cool, by the way. This is the coolest thing ever. This is why research administrators are so smart. I've been training on efficiency for years and years and years and years and years. And almost to a person, the people that I've trained that are not research administrators typically focus more on the what. I'm doing a labor cost transfer. I'm doing an application, right? Which is fine, but it's not the thing that's going to get you the most bang for your buck, right? The thing that gets you the more bangs for your buck is the stuff that research administrators are interested in, which is the how. How do we put this together? How does it fit in? Like this whole kind of like almost like esoteric part of it, which I think is so cool, because it's very cool. It's unusual in terms of coaching, and it's an exciting approach, because I feel like that's where we see the most difference, right? Like, we can make a better cost transfer form for sure. We can create an SOP to do things for sure, and those are needed. But without the underlying infrastructure, we're not going to actually be able to see the maximum benefits of the tactical changes that we're making. And I think what's great about it is that we've all bought into that, right? And honestly, before I was coaching in research administration, the interesting thing is the longest time often was the conversation that I would have with my clients, where I'm moving them from the spaces of like, it's not just the forms. You got to figure out what's happening underneath as well. The other thing that came up a lot is that there are a lot of people who have jobs available. Okay. Like Danforth, if anybody is looking for a job, I'm going to tell you, people love working for managers that care about them, that see them as people, that are interested in their life experience beyond being a research administrator. And Danforth is like my hero in that space. Talk about superheroes. He was in my superhero presentation because I'm inspired by the way he approaches operationalizing some of the things that we like, the esoteric stuff that we talked about. Oh, it's brilliant. So chef's kiss. So if you're looking for a job, there's a couple hot jobs at MIT. So reach out to Danforth. Nicholas, I'm connected to him through LinkedIn, so that's how you can kind of find him. If not, you can message me, I'll connect you. But more importantly than that is that there's a really giant network of people who are looking for jobs, who are extremely unhappy, and a giant network of people who are with jobs that are open. And so the thing that, I got asked, how do I find a job and where do I go? And so a couple things I'm going to recommend for that is, first, LinkedIn. Be on LinkedIn, whether you're looking for a job or not. That's really important. It takes 50. So remember, I don't know if any of you have ever heard this stat, or if you've ever heard this stat, is that it takes, so if someone's trying to sell you something, like I'm going to sell you, this phone, you have to see the phone 7 times, and you have to be faced with the, what's the word I'm looking for? The the marketing. I have to be marketing this to you 7 times before you will think about buying it. That number, oh God, I turned on my flashlight. I don't know how to use this thing. That number is now 15, and it holds true for getting a job as well, right? So people gravitate towards what they are most familiar with. So if you are active on LinkedIn, even if you're not looking for a job now, people start to see you in their feeds around their, in their space, in their area. And then when your application comes into the job, maybe you already know the hiring manager, or you have already been in their field of view for long enough time to where when they see you, they're like, oh, I know this person. They may not remember why they know you, but they'll be like, oh, I know you, which means they're automatically going to be like, hey, let's check out and talk about this. So LinkedIn is good. To follow the hot jobs. I have a hashtag hot RA jobs, I think I called it. Maybe I call it RA hot jobs. I should find out what I actually called it. Hold on. What did we actually call it? I gave it a hashtag. Listen, this is me starting out with my hashtag stuff. My friend... Shiva has she has a really great thing at the bottom of all of her posts, and I love it. And so I was like, ooh, I'm going to do that too. And then I did it, and RA Hot Jobs. My hashtag is hashtag RA Hot Jobs. Follow that, and then I'll post it. I post jobs regularly that I pull from the Res Admin mailing list. And then I pull them from LinkedIn, and I pull them from other places because people are always sending me their jobs that they have available. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. People are always sending me their jobs that they have available. Give me a sec. I got to just sort out this situation here. Look at me being aware. Situationally aware, everyone. That's who I am now. If you know me, you know that that's not always the case. I've worked really hard to eliminate my hypervigilance. My God, Dr. Pepper, the elixir of the gods. Though I'll be really honest with you, I'm actually not in the mood for Dr. Pepper right now. I'm actually in the mood for iced tea, which I have very little of, so I am rationing it right now. Okay, so hot jobs. All right, join the Res Admin mailing list. If you haven't already joined the Res Admin mailing list, that place is basically a job board right now. However, even though it is a job board, there's also some really cool conversations happening about some really fun stuff. So I recommend, I feel like when I look at it, I'm all like, so there's a lot of jobs, ton of jobs. But then there's these little pockets where someone will ask a question and a whole conversation will happen as a result of the question. And you're like, oh my God, I feel like I learned so much in this conversation. And I almost want to like save it in its own little space. And then I'm like, you know what? That's why we have search. So I'll come search for it later when I need it. But there's some really cool conversations that happen in there related to research administration. But it's like old school, like one of those, I don't know how, like I'm dating myself here, but this is like old school listservs, right? Like old school. Remember you just basically write an email and then it goes to everybody. The good old days of, okay. The other thing that you can do is honestly get involved with NCURA. That is like the best thing that I can recommend is get involved with NCURA. If you are in Region 1, Curtis is amazing. I will post his information, but reach out to him. He is so fun, and he'll help you figure out where volunteering kind of works for you, like whatever it is that you like to do or you want to do, like where do you fit in? But the other way of doing it is to, as in you can volunteer for all over, like the big NCURA, but regional volunteering typically tends to work better, I think, because I really am a big believer in be as local as you can. So I'm a member of the South Shore. I'm actually on the board for the South Shore Conference for Women. And the reason why I'm on the board for them and the SSWBN, I'm going to be president next year. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. But what was I saying? Oh, what's great about it is I have found that working hyper local has really allowed me to deepen and strengthen some of these relationships faster. Just because we're closer, we're together, we're in a similar community. Like as much as I really love the internet's ability to connect us with everybody in the world, and that's really fun because I've been doing this since 1995, so I'm all about it. And growing up overseas in Pakistan and having a lot of my family be in the United States on my mother's side of the family, and then my aunt, my puppy moved here. She's my father's sister. She moved here in, I think, like 85. So I had a lot of family overseas. So for me, which is funny to think of U.S. as overseas, but yes, U.S. was the overseas when you live in Pakistan. So I'm all about the whole world connection. However, the hyper local connection is the community, right? Is for me, right? Is the community. Now you can, I'm going to use a different term. There's another type of hyper local, which is, for me, is going to call it like hyper special interests. Let's call it that. So like I'm autistic, I have special interests, and it's that there are communities that can completely exist online, but it's a smaller group of people who are all centered around a particular topic, right? So if you think about it, you could have a hyper special interest group, hyper interest group for post award, right? And like there's 200, 300 people who are just obsessed with post award, and they're all involved in this group all the time. That smaller community becomes that hyper local community, right? So like geographically is the easiest way to connect them, but topic wise is another way to connect them. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is, hold on, I just want to double check. I always like to check when people message me on LinkedIn or anything like that while I'm live, because back in the day when I used to go live, oh my God. So I went live this one time with like, it started out with like 250 people, and I'm like, yeah, look at me, I'm killing it. And it's like dropping like so fast. I'm like, am I just that boring? Like, what is happening? And what had happened, so when I finally signed off, what had happened was my microphone had gone out, and so nobody could hear me. And so people just all left, right? And I didn't notice it until after I was done going live that I had like 30 messages. So now I actually have a tab open so I can see when like somebody is pinging me on the platform that I'm live on, so YouTube or LinkedIn, so that if someone's like, hey, I can't hear you, I know in advance. Okay, so get involved in Kara. All right, so the other thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is super interesting to me, and I'd love it if you either connected with me offline, you can connect with me here, but something that came out of not just this event, but FRA, PRA as well, is that there are a huge number of people in research administration who are neurodivergent, who have neurodivergent children or people in their family who are like, as in they're caregivers for them, or they are very close to these people, or they think they are neurodivergent and have never been diagnosed. So I'm just going to come right out and own this right now. I have never gone to be officially diagnosed for ADHD or autism. I don't need to go to get diagnosed. Like, I have done enough research to know how it manifests, to know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that I'm autistic and have ADHD. The reason why I typically don't qualify that is because, and say, oh, I have this, but I'm not diagnosed, is because I am diagnosed. I diagnosed me. And the reason why that's so important is because most doctors don't know how to diagnose women with autism or ADHD. And more importantly, how do you even diagnose a gender nonconforming person? You can't, there's no way, right? So what I had to do, and what I recommend anyone do who thinks they are neurodivergent, is to look at just read, I'm going to give you some ADHD_love and Unmasking Autism is a book by Devin Price. Those are the two things that I recommend. And just spending a little bit of time with those two will allow you, you will figure it out for yourself. Like literally you'll be like, within 10 minutes, you will know, oh my God, this is me. And if you diagnose yourself, then I really want to encourage you to eliminate but I'm not diagnosed, because that is part of, like, that's us gaslighting ourselves, right? Like, we know that it's true, but because somebody with a doctor hasn't stamped it, who doesn't have the qualifications to do that, right? Now, if you need to get diagnosed for whatever reason, for accommodations or whatever, absolutely, like, do what is right for you. But don't feel like you have to, is really what that's coming at. So what I wanted to bring up, why I'm bringing this up, is this. LinkedIn is a social media platform that I'm spending time on, but I realize that there's too much content for me to create to have it all on LinkedIn. It just really is. So I'm going to recommend that if you are interested in content related to being neurodivergent in the workplace, and, one of the questions that came up a lot was, how do you navigate the long list of challenges that are created from being autistic and having ADHD and chronically ill in a neurotypical world? How do you navigate those and also be successful, right? Because that's, for many people, they feel like they have to either mask it or they're not sure how to do what needs to be done. So they kind of just feel like, I guess this is just the way it is. And so I'll be posting a lot of videos about that on YouTube. And sort of not like about necessarily my story, but more about, though that will probably be there too, but more about, okay, this is how you operationalize this. There's also some more, what's the word I'm looking for? Podcasts. There's some, so as I wrap up the Stop Shitting All Over Yourself podcast, we're going to end after our 100th episode. It's going to be a special 100 episode series of Stop Shitting All Over Yourself. The first 50 are for small business owners. The second 50 is for research administrators. It's absolutely perfect. Perfect. Turned out perfectly. But we're going to have a couple more people who are, one especially Jamie, who specializes in, how do you engage with your loved one with autism, right? She's autistic. I'm autistic. She wrote a really great book. I wonder if I have the book here. I do not, but I will get you that book, and you can definitely take a look at that. So anyway, so the point is follow me on YouTube, Manessa.tv. And the reason is because I'm not like, you're going to start, honestly, I have too much content coming out on LinkedIn. And a lot of that is because I'm putting all my content. I have a lot of things that I'm creating, but they're all ending up on LinkedIn. And I don't necessarily want them all to be here, because LinkedIn is a social media platform, just like anything else. So I'm moving it. I'm going to keep a lot of stuff coming on YouTube. So definitely check that out. That's where we will also have more conversations about. So we had a lot of new research administrators who were also looking for help, like, because they're coming into organizations that either don't have anyone to teach them how to do what they need to do, or someone is hiring someone into a space where they've got 6 new people, or they've got a whole lot of stuff going on. How do you train these people? So one of the things that I'm doing as I'm building these videos is, oh, hey, this is what a just-in-time is, and this is how you do it, and these are the things you want to think about, because those are the kinds of questions that I've actually been getting from new people. So it'll be, a little sections about that, little sections. So it's more fun for me. I enjoy creating more content on YouTube, and that becomes sort of like, that's my channel. We can all hang out on my channel, right? As opposed to LinkedIn, which I think is sort of like a more communal space. Now we're gonna dovetail a little bit. Sorry, that's not the word. We're gonna go into something more tactical now. Okay, so let me just see what else. Okay, the couple of tactical things that I want to talk about are, we had an NIH update. Oh, actually, let me pause first before we do tactical. I just want to say my sister is a goddess. My sister is such a goddess. And all of the other volunteers absolutely killed Region 1. I speak about my sister specifically because she was co-chair of the event. I am so proud of her. Oh my God, I'm so proud of her. And like, you guys don't remember her as a kid. I do, right? And so for me, watching her now running around doing all this stuff is like, oh my God, that's my little sister. It's awesome. So, and the reason why I thought of that right before I did this was because the last thing that happened at the NCURA Region 1 was the NIH update. So I'm not going to go into the whole NIH update. I just pulled out a couple of really interesting things that were relevant to what we've already been talking about in some of our more recent conversations related to the changes to the circulars. I keep calling them circulars. I don't think that they're still called circulars. Are they still called circulars? It's called the OMB Guidance for Federal Financial Assistance, but I don't know. I mean, I know they were circulars once, right? But like, does anyone who is not like 100 years in research administration use the term? That's what I'm curious about. But we're going to use it for right now. So just in case you're curious, that's what I mean when I say circulars. It's what used to be the uniform guidance, and then became the uniform guidance, and now it's the OMB OMB guidance for federal financial assistance. Shit, I have a whole thing on this. I think it's just, hi, Kelly. It's a bit overwhelming at first, but keep looking. Dude, I don't remember when you commented that, because I've been looking for you and I didn't see you until just now. Hi, Kelly. I'm glad you're here. So yeah, I think it's just the uniform guidance. And then I think the new name for it, hold on. I literally just had this open recent. It's like, oh, there we go. It's got a new name. OMB Guidance for Federal Financial Assistance. Okay. I think that's the new name for it. Because what isn't a name? right? What isn't a name? The res admin list. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my God. You've been here that long. I'm sorry I missed you. I need to look down more. My God. I'm sorry, but I'm glad you're here. So yes, the res admin mailing list. Okay. I'm just going to come back to that. It is absolutely overwhelming at first. What I recommend for the res admin mailing list, thanks for bringing that up, is have a filter set that automatically files away anything from the res admin list into a folder of its own. And then what I do is I typically will go once every couple of days and I'll go in and I'll like look at it. Nowadays I go once every day because it's, you know, it's part of my thing to find the jobs and stuff. But I found that that helps because otherwise you get a lot of emails and it's interspersed with all of the other emails you're getting. And then it just becomes chaos. And then I like, can't deal with that. Okay. So, right, where do we go? I'm so happy to see Kelly. I got it. I just got all excited. Okay, hold on. Let me close this window because I don't need this anymore. Okay. All right. So the new grants. So the NIH released, and I haven't figured out how to share a screen with you yet. So that's going to be my next thing. But what I really want to be able to do, and this will be fun, is where you share the screen, and I'm kind of like sitting on the side with like a cutout, and we like go over it together. Like that would be super fun. But for the moment, we're just going to do this, which is that this is their FY24 grants policy statement. So this is really important because it incorporates some of the things that we've been talking about, but not all, and it's not intended to. So the FY25 GPS is going to include all of the changes that we've been talking about over the last several weeks. So it does have some of the things in there related to streamlining processes, using consistent terms. They updated some of the allowable, unallowable costs, and I will put this in the weekly recap, so you'll have this in that email. But they've got a lot of, they have a full list of all of the changes. It's only actually about 5 pages in a table. And it's actually, I really like the way they sent this out. So it's super cool. So that is their updated grants policy statement for the next year. Now, they are going to be releasing Form I. Okay, so the Forms I package for the SF424 is going to be released for grants that are being submitted January 25th, 2025 or after. Okay, or after. The application itself and the guidelines is going to be released in October. Now, Kelly mentioned that the IDC on the first 50K of subs instead of the first 25K. So that's interesting because, so one of the things that I'm looking into on that is because I believe that that only becomes in effect after, and Kelly, you're going to have to, oh, wow, apparently I'm not going to try to sign in to chat right now. Oh, apparently I can't do that while I'm live. Is that those, I believe, only become effective after you have your next negotiated rate agreement. So what I was doing this morning, which I didn't really have time to finish, is figure out, okay, so they're going to increase the threshold for equipment from 5,000 to 10,000. And anyone who knows about this, I would love to hear from you because I'm still figuring this out in my head. And I'm glad you're here, Kelly, for this. Is it that, all right, once this is in place, any organization can update their policies right now and say 5,000 to 10,000, like 10,000 is now equipment, right? As opposed to 5. But for the 50,000 in subs, Kelly, that has to wait until after the next negotiated rate agreement. Am I right here? You said correct, so I think I'm right here. So the equipment is one you can implement now. The subs, where you can take IDC off of the first 50,000 of a sub as opposed to the first 25,000 of a sub, that is after your next negotiated rate agreement. So I think one of the interesting things that's going to happen over the next year is, like, as we kind of filter some of those things out and then apply them. So this is going to be, oh my God, what the heck just happened? Give me a sec while I fix this screen. Thanks, Kelly. Oh my God. I am so glad when I have other RAs on here to like sort of help me with these things because, you know, this is the joy, right? Is that you can go through all of the documents and the papers and whatnot and then be like, I'm still not 100% sure how we're actually applying this. And like, you've got to have that brainstorming in there. So Kelly, my God, I'm so glad you're here right now. I'm going to be honest. I actually deliberately didn't initially touch on the IDC thing because I wasn't sure. And then when you brought it up, I thought, oh my God, what an amazing opportunity for me to pick Kelly's brain. I was like, thank God I can get this information from someone. This is amazing. So thank you. Thank you. And again, as always, as we talk about these things, I love, love, love when someone's like, no, I think this is how I would read it. Even if I'm live, because that's the opportunity for us to have this great conversation. I don't care if I'm wrong. I just need to know what, you know what I mean? Like a lot of us are like, I don't care if I'm wrong. Just give me what the answer is. Okay. So, if you are a consultant, I'm not going to talk about this because we don't have a lot of consultants on here, but if you are a consultant and you're watching this later, there are some things related to the SBIR and STTR conversation that, again, we're not going to talk about here. Jump over to YouTube. I'm going to record a video and upload that today, and we can just talk about that, but those are not related to this kind of thing, so I'm just going to leave that for now. But this is interesting, and I'm going to close on this one, okay, because this is actually really cool. Oh, shit. Oh, my God. Oh my God, it's going to be an absolute headache. Implementing these new changes is going to be an absolute headache, especially, Kelly, if you consider that a lot of organizations are switching to Workday right now. So this was actually fascinating to me. I had a lot of people coming to me, and somebody's going to have to tell me about this. And I'm not trying to disparage Workday in any way, shape, or form, because I actually think it has a lot of potential. I've just never seen anybody able to extract its potential, right? So it's like you have potential, but thus far I haven't seen it. So I've talked to some people who said, yeah, like a lot of people who are using Workday, and they're having challenges extracting information or doing the grant work that they need to do, or so on and so forth. So the extra added headache for me as I think about it in some of these organizations is this is going to be hard enough to implement for organizations that already have a system that they have been using for years with their grant system in place and their policy system in place and everything is going fine. This is going to be hard enough to implement for those people. I can't imagine the added challenge that's going to come from having a software system that people are still trying to figure out how to implement for grants while also navigating this, right? So like, it's going to be an interesting and challenging little while. So I think this is something, by the way, that if you are someone who feels like you've solved this problem, or you feel like you're on the path to it, or you're looking to brainstorm about it, reach out, please. Because I feel like this is one of those things where I don't know enough, but I know that there are people out there who are looking for that kind of help and they don't know where to go because, again, we're all operating in our little silos. So anyone who knows anyone who is doing Workday, really deep Workday stuff, that they've seen it work the way we know it can work, I want to hear from you. Oh my God, please, please call me. My God, call me maybe. Okay. So we are not on Workday, nor we are switching, so I have no thoughts. Kelly's like, I know Vanessa's hoping I'm on Workday right now. I'm like, no. Shit out of luck. Okay, so the next thing is and this is actually, so there are some revisions being done to the grants, the fellowship review process, which these are going to be changes that are going to be moved, throughout the grant review process, right? So they're changing how they're reviewing grants. They're changing. I was just on an NIH and session the other day where they were talking about how they're going to change how they're doing reviews. They're trying to make it remove unconscious bias. And as I was going through that, and it's really interesting because while we were at NCURA Region 1 during the business meeting, my understanding is that we've now, we're talking about elections in NCURA and how we're bringing people on and so on. And it's no secret that I'm dissatisfied with how our bylaws, I feel like they're written in a weird way. I don't feel like they're written in a very inclusive way. And that's fine. It is what it is, right? That's why I don't get involved in politics and bureaucracy, because it's just like, whatever. But at the same time, if we want to impact the future of research administration, there's no better way to do it than at NCURA. So one of the things that I was thinking about is that the federal government is making some changes in the way in which they are reviewing applications to make sure that they're eliminating unconscious bias. And I would be curious to know, and I know that there's some people on governance committees, so I would love to learn a little bit more about how are we making changes to the bylaws in our organization to ensure that we are removing bias, making it a fairer process, more transparent. how are people being selected from, like, so let's say 30 people get nominated, and then for a certain position you can't put 30 people on the ballot. Like, how are they narrowing those things down and putting them up there? Like, I feel like I feel like it's such a great opportunity to kind of, as the federal government is doing this right now, how can we also take that and like make those changes within our own organization so that we're bringing it into this new future that we're looking at, right? I don't know what that looks like. Again, this goes back to the fact that, like, each of us has our own areas that we care about, and that, like, and that not just that we care about, but that we care about and have the bandwidth. Like, that's where I want to put my energy. For me, it's education, new research administrators. It's this work that I'm doing here. I would love to, though, learn a little bit more about people who know more about this than I do, but who are also trying to make that kind of change, because, again, I think it's part of revisiting, when a lot of these things were written were ages ago, and we just keep iterating back on what was already written, right? And, like, what if we kind of just say, all right, let's wipe this thing out, and then replace it with something new. But again, that's a bigger ask. I thought it was exciting and interesting because there are many different, we have and this is actually, I lied. I'm going to finish on this. I'm actually going to finish on something like beyond cool. Okay. So we're going to, give me a sec. I'm going to pull up my email because it's in my email. Okay. There it is. NCURA Region 1 announcements. There we go. Okay. And this is why this came up. It's all coming together, everybody, as we wrap this up. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with this. NCURA Region 1 is excited to announce the call for applications for our Mentor Cohort Pilot Program. Now, here's why this is really exciting, and I was very thrilled to be part of the Professional Development Committee because I was inspired by Tanya and Lamar, Tanya Blackwell and Lamar Oglesby. I met them at FRAPRA. I had never met them before. I had seen Lamar a couple of times and I had seen Tanya too, but it just sort of like, it didn't register the way it did this time, right? Like, I was like, oh, okay, these people. But I met them, and whoa, they blew my mind, and they really had a lot of great things to say about the executive leadership program. And the real key, I think, what was awesome was recognizing how being paired with a mentor who was able to help and guide them through their leadership that they were, that they were developing was instrumental to them now making the changes that they have already made within our organization. For example, with the land and labor acknowledgements, with the videos, like, they inspired me. Like, if you're not already friends with them on LinkedIn, I cannot encourage you to connect with them enough. Like, they are amazing, amazing people. But it also ignited this desire for me to be able to support someone who is early in their career, relatively 1 to 5 years, where basically those people are paired with someone who is 5 years or more in research administration, right? And this is it's a formal. It's a slightly more like formal and organized relationship, not so much just, hey, dude, you're my mentor, let's hang out and talk, right? No, there's a formalized process that you go through that'll help guide you through your career. And there's chances to meet with people, connect with the cohort, connect with mentors. The period of the program, it starts on 7/1/2024. It ends on 12/1/2024. If you are interested in applying, and you are in Region 1, the application close date is 5/24/24. And I would encourage you to look in your own region to see where this is in your own region, because these are things that are being built across the country, and so it's not just with Region 1. The time commitment is about 3 hours-ish a month. There is an application for a mentor and for a mentee, and here's the key. This is the kicker. This is the theme that I was talking about earlier with the fellowship, is that the applications are going to be blind reviewed, which means that no one's name, no one will be identified. The entire application will be reviewed on merit alone and connected then with other mentors, mentees on merit alone, which is we are going to try to remove as much of our own biases as possible. Oh, that's Manessa. I love them. That's bias, right? That's bias towards me, right? How can we eliminate that bias so that we're making sure that the best candidates are being selected for the best candidates to both train, mentor, and mentee from? Because I will tell you, most of my growth over the last several years has actually come from people who may have less experience doing, certain things, but whose life experience and approach far outweighs mine. So like a lot of my teachers are in their 20s and 30s right now, right? I'm 47. I have a lot of teachers who are very many age groups, but I find that age group right now is having a giant impact on how I approach the world. So if you have questions about submission, you can reach out to curriculum@ncuraregion1.org. And if you have general inquiries, you can contact pdc@ncuraregion1.org. I will also post this as a post on my LinkedIn today so that you all have access to the information and the links. But please, please, please do apply. It can be such a huge thank you so much, Kelly. Okay, so Kelly said that there is one. Kelly is also participating in the Region 4 mentorship program. So that's Region 4 is doing theirs right now. And the Region 4 application deadline is May 15th. So you have 2 more days. If you need help with your application, you're like, oh my God, I really want to do this, but I have run out of time. Don't worry. You can absolutely do this. Absolutely do this. So you send me an email, I'll let you be like, hey, this is how you can make it faster or whatever, right? Like, don't send it. And there's probably emails in the thingy, right? But like, try out. You can always do it again next year. But I cannot stress enough how much value you will get out of having this. So like, for me, being a member of NCURA has literally shaped my career in such a powerful way. It can't be overstated. It absolutely cannot be overstated. So thank you so much, Kelly. I love this. Oh my God, I love this. You know what we need? We need to have a few more other regions in here, so that when I say, oh, this is happening, we've got like 6 people going, and Region 6 is this, and Region 3 is this, and so on and so forth. So, or maybe I'll like look it up next time. But in either case, it has been a wonderful, wonderful morning hanging out with you. Look at that. We're at 9:47. I always wonder to myself, because I have a list of things, and I'm like, all right, how much will I get through? Will I get through it all? Will I get through any of it? Will I be done in like 15 minutes? Right? Like I've been doing this long enough to where I don't necessarily always know, but I'm sort of like ready to go either way. And I'll tell you, it's like I love it when I get to the end of something and I'm like, damn, look at that. Because I try to do about 45, 50 minutes, right? That's sort of like the sweet spot for me. But yeah. So thank you for spending these last 50 minutes with me. You are absolutely wonderful. Kelly, I'm so, so glad. Okay, great. Kelly has linked it to me, so I'm going to post this as well today. So I'll post both of them, Region 4 and Region 1, so that both of those are up there, and then you can apply as see fit. And definitely reach out to Kelly, right? I always like to throw myself out there because I don't want to actually like add more work to someone else's plate, but Kelly has now volunteered, so I'll put that information in there for you. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of your week. I will see you on May 20th at 9 a.m. for Intent. And then just as a reminder, we will not be having Intent on May 27th because that is going to be Memorial Day. And I actually have someone coming over to my house. A friend of mine's brother is a tattoo artist, and he's an apprentice. And so he's getting his inking time. And so we're going to be doing I'm like, hey, dude, I've got tons of canvas. I'm like, just come on in. And like, so he's going to come and do some, I don't know what to get. We're just going to be like, all right, let's do this thing. Stacy Reisman had a great suggestion for sea slug. It's a long story about the sea slug. It's a blue sea dragon. It's absolutely adorable. Google it. They're so cute. But yeah, so I'm going to be getting tattooed on that day, but we have time. All right. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. And I will see you next week. All right. End stream. Oh, you know what I should do? Here's what I should do. Do the music part.